Hey, thanks for checking out another episode of Live from Jacksonville. I'm Amadeus. You may know me from the morning show at 99.9 Gator Country here in Jacksonville. I'm also the promotions director for both Gator Country and 96.1 WEJZ. That's how I'm so in the know on what's happening in Jacksonville, concert, event, comedian-wise. And that's what this podcast is all about. I have two amazing guests with me this week on the podcast. Stephanie Lynn from Daly's Place will talk about some of the great shows coming, as well as what's going to happen to Daly's Place once the Jaguars start building the stadium of the future. And, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Luis Elizondo, if you don't know Lou, he is the expert on UFOs and alien sightings and everything. He worked for the government for many, many years. He's got a #1 bestseller out, and he is absolutely fascinating. That's coming up a little bit later on. But right now, let's talk about what's coming to town in the next few weeks. The St. Augustine Amphitheater is about to be very, very busy. Saturday, March 8th, it's the Beach Boys Endless Summer Gold Tour. ZZ Top will be at the Amp on Friday, March 14th. Joe Bonamassa, the incredible guitarist, I've seen him several times. He's amazing. He'll be at the Amp on Saturday, March 15th. Foreigner on March 16th. Diana Ross, a legend, on Tuesday, March 18th. And Widespread Panic are playing 3 dates at the Amp St. Augustine, March 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Our friends at the Thrasher-Horne Center, they're also about to be very busy. Larry the Cable Guy, who was on our podcast last week, will be there on March 6th. Howie Mandel on March 13th. Splish Splash, the music of Bobby Darin, is at the Thrasher-Horne Center on March 16th. Joe Nichols, March 27th. And Turn to Stone, an ELO tribute, March 31st. They also have a big announcement coming Monday, March 3rd. Make sure you check out our Live from Jacksonville Facebook page after 10 a.m. for that announcement. The FSCJ Artist Series is bringing to the Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts the Righteous Brothers Farewell Tour on March 5th. Staying Alive, One Night of the Bee Gees on Thursday, March 6th. My first guest today is Stephanie Lynn from Daly's Place, which, if you don't know, is an amphitheater that's actually attached to Everbank Stadium where the Jacksonville Jaguars play. And Stephanie walked into the studio when we got to talking, and before we knew it, we were already into the conversation. So let's pick up there where I asked Stephanie about her history with Daly's Place.
Okay, so I was a little like, what am I doing with my life, right? I had a whole career. I'd worked for media distribution. I sent commercials to radio and television stations. I'd been a graphic designer. I'd been a stay-at-home mom. I had worked for the film festival back when we had a fully fledged film festival.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And I was feeling a little lost, and what am I doing? And when I realized I need to get back into events, I saw a job description for a job posting for a position at Thrasher-Horne Center, and fully admit, did not know it had ever existed.
Same with me until I started going, and it's been around 20 years, I learned last week.
I mean, it's a beautiful venue.
Yeah.
Beautiful facility. So this is like 2015, and I drive all the way out there for my interview, and when they give me a tour, I was like, how did I not know that this was here?
I did the same thing.
I know. And it was for a marketing and admin assistant role, which was a few steps back in my career trajectory. But I knew I wanted to be in the industry so bad. I was like, totally worth it.
You had your eye on the prize.
I did. It was the best decision I ever made. First off, the team that I worked with were incredible, passionate, dedicated, really were able to take what I knew out here and put it through the lens of events. I was there for about 2.5 years. I was a house manager in addition to my other responsibilities.
Wow.
Became a coordinator. They really helped me champion the rebrand that we did back in, let's say 2017, 2017, something like that. And it was because of my time there that I was able to go and work for SMG, which is now ASM.
At the arena, right?
Yep. So
because I think that's where we first met. You were there.
Yeah. So that's the arena, which is now the Florida Performing Arts Center. So the Times Union, the Ritz, connections with the stadium, Daly's Place, and the baseball grounds. And I was their marketing manager. And then weirdly, well, not weirdly, but we partnered with the Jaguars on Rolling Stones. And I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan. Could not have been more excited. Because of that collaboration, they got to know, the Jaguars got to know me. I got to know them. They did not have a me at the Jaguars.
Oh, okay. So this was a job created for you.
Well, it was a job created, and then I was asked to apply.
Right.
But yeah, so at the time, everything that was Daly's Place and the concerts coming into Everbank Stadium were being marketed and managed by the existing Jaguars marketing team.
Was that out of their wheelhouse?
It was out of their wheelhouse. And the Jaguars were really excited to bring on bold events in Daly's Place, but I don't think that they expected it to become as big and as huge as it did. So instantly it's starting to grow. And so, yeah, I was with the arena for maybe not even a year and a half. And then I went over there, and I've been there now. I'm going on my 6th anniversary this May.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When they started building Daly's, I knew that was going to be a place that I was going to live, because I live in the St. Nick area where you used to live.
Yeah.
And I just knew this is going to be a place that I'm going to spend a lot of time. And it is. I always tell people I'm married to the St. Augustine Amphitheater, but I cheat with Daly's. Because those are I love outdoor venues.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been in Jacksonville for quite some time. Let's call it 17, 18 years now.
Okay.
And I remember when the amp came online. I remember when Bob Dylan came through, whenever that was, and all of a sudden now everybody's talking about the amp, right? And they've done such a great job connecting to their community, bringing in great acts. They're really, really, they lean into that kind of like community vibe, right? And so, big fan of the amp. As somebody who lives in Jacksonville, getting down to the amp is not always the easiest thing for me.
Exactly.
So when Daly's Place was announced, I was at Thrasher-Horne at the time. I was stoked. I was so excited. I was like, this is going to be perfect. Not knowing that, of course, I was going to
end up working there.
Right. And I think Daly's Place isn't trying to be the amp.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And where we, I think, excel is we're this downtown venue, and we have these tremendous connections to the Jaguars. Well, because we are the Jaguars, right? And so we're able to bring in these acts that you just wouldn't see in an amphitheater.
I mean, going to see like Kenny Chesney at Daly's Play, and I'm a huge Kenny fan. I've gone to like Boston to see him and all over, but seeing him at that venue at home, it's so special.
Yes, first off, we're like, 5,500 seats?
Yeah.
And there's not a bad seat in the house. You can sit, this is my fun fact that I tell everybody, from the very front row of the stage, or from the very lip of the stage to the very back row, is 125 feet.
We've actually interviewed artists that have played there that say they love that they can look up into the top, rows and see people's faces.
Yes.
Like they love that venue.
Oh, yeah. Whenever we're giving tours or we're talking, like you can be in the very back of the terrace, or like at the top of the third level by the terrace suite, and you can see facial expressions. You don't need that big screen.
Right.
Coming from an arena,
yeah,
right, where you need those screens to see people.
Or binoculars.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, what I loved about Thrasher-Horne Center is it's just this tiny, intimate little venue. But I really love the excitement of the arena, and that's where I think that Daly's Place really...
It's like the perfect marriage.
Perfect. It's like, it's my venue. Like, it is my Goldilocks venue.
Yeah.
I love an amphitheater.
It's just right.
It's just right. And so, in addition to Kenny Chesney, like Maroon 5, Jonas Brothers.
Train always plays so well there.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many bands that I've seen there. The Zach Brown Band, are you kidding me?
Oh, I know.
Seeing Zach Brown there is so much fun.
Then the energy really fills up the space. Like, it's my very favorite thing to do, to stand kind of in the middle when we have a sold out show and when people go crazy. I like to take my camera and do a 360.
Like right in the 205 section?
Yeah, right there on the walkway between the 100s and the 200s.
Yeah.
Right in the middle, and I do a 360.
That is a great spot. Sound wise, like you said, energy, seeing the band.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a sweet spot. Let's talk about some shows coming to Daly's Place.
Yeah.
There's one that I'm super excited about that was supposed to be in a bar here in town up until a couple of days ago. Zach Top is kind of new and rising in the country scene, but one of these artists that's just selling out everywhere he goes. And it was just announced the 2 shows that were going to be at 5 in Riverside have been combined to 1 show, and that's March 5th at Daly's Place.
Is that not the craziest thing you've ever heard?
I'm super excited for Zach.
Yeah, we are all really excited about Zach. And, there were whispers, there were hints that they were looking for another venue. We were like, well, it's maybe going to be us, but there was a lot of we wouldn't hear things for a couple of days. I mean, understand there's many people in this process. So as a marketing department, we're just one little piece of a puzzle.
Yeah.
But, we back and forth, and we're waiting, and we're stopping, and we're pausing, and we didn't really know. And then just Tuesday.
Wow.
they were like, yeah, we're going to announce like now.
So 5 in Riverside, I guess they're having some building issues, some permit issues. They've already moved a few shows to this new venue called Deca Live on Bay Street. And so that seemed to work well. I was really hoping Zach was going to be at Daly's because as much as I'd love to see him in an intimate little bar, I just feel like he's so great and so dynamic.
Right.
That show will be amazing at Daly's Place.
Well, you know, he had 2 shows at 5. Those were sold out, and then the interest was so great. So between announcing yesterday morning, or I guess announcing Friday, but going on sale yesterday morning until last night, we sold out.
It's sold out.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you want to see Zach Top, it's sold out.
You know, go get your resale tickets.
Yeah, you can get resale tickets. Absolutely. So this is gonna be a special show. And you guys sign him for next year before he leaves the building.
Okay.
Get him back.
We'll be on it.
We already want him back. March 15th, the Coral Reefer Band. This show is a tribute to Jimmy Buffett by Jimmy Buffett's band.
Right. So this is not a random band out there that's singing Jimmy Buffett songs.
Right.
This is the Coral Reefer Band. And it's going to be a good time. Anytime we have anything that kind of resembles jam bandy, kind of beach music-y, kind of, you know, Jimmy Buffett's a party, right?
Right, and this is the real deal. Mac McAnally, who a lot of country fans know that name, was in the Coral Reefer band and wrote a lot of songs for Jimmy, and he's part of this experience.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be, I don't know. Those type of concerts always are just like, oh, you know what? We're just going to have a good time. And people are there to have a good time. You know, the difference between that and football games is, you know, sometimes people leave football games unhappy. You know,
but not a Jimmy Buffett concert.
But not a Jimmy Buffett concert.
It's literally Keep the Party Going is literally the tour name. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a show coming May 10th that I'm a little upset about. Teddy Swims.
You're upset? Why are you upset?
I didn't get tickets. And I'm he was on Kelly Clarkson, gosh, I want to say maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's when I first saw him, and she invited him on to sing backup for him on one of his songs. And I was like, whoa, and then blew me away.
Yeah.
And so that show sold out so quickly. I think I went online to buy tickets like 2 days after. I'm like, damn it, it's already sold out.
Oh, yeah. That one moved quickly, too. So we're very, very excited. He was one of the first shows we announced for this season. And I was like, whoever else we get, we're set.
Yeah, you're set. Book him for next year before he leaves. So now you got 2 acts you got to book for me. Nice. June 2nd is Styx and Kevin Cronin from REO Speedwagon and Don Felter. It's the Brotherhood of Rock tour.
Yes, and what's exciting is it's basically going to be 2 of their albums are being played. So
like kind of a back-to-back thing. Yeah. I saw Don Felter there once. I believe it was with Styx. But who was REO Speedwagon was one of the opening acts, and Kevin's voice was messed up. So they gave Don like an extra 3 songs, and then Kevin took a couple of breaks while other people in REO sang, and that was a really fun show. People forget how great Don Felter is.
Oh no, that's like our new senior director of marketing. She's like, yeah,
that's gonna be fun.
Like we all have our shows that we get excited about.
Get there early for that one so you don't miss Don Felter. On June 6th, it's Old Dominion with Ernest and Red Farron. Do you know how big Red Farron is?
Yes.
I mean, he's like Zach Top right now.
I know. So we announced Old Dominion on Wednesday, the 20th, and then Zach Top on Friday, the 22nd. And I was like, country's done for the. And
those tickets go on sale. By the time this podcast drops, those tickets will be on sale.
Correct.
For that Old Dominion show.
Newly on sale, yeah.
Have you seen them live before?
Oh, yeah. We've had them at Daly's Place before.
I don't remember. Oh, wait. Did they open up for someone?
No. They were on their own. This is just a couple years
Sometimes you see too many shows and you forget.
Insane.
Okay. June 12th, Vampire Weekend. Tell me everything about them because I don't know enough.
Okay. Well, so they're, indie pop, like late 09, 10, early decade. That's where they were, kind of offbeat. You've heard them in television shows. You've heard them around. They're one of my favorites from that time.
Okay.
I used to be a runner, and I would run to their songs because they had such great beats.
Is it going to be one of those where I go, oh, yeah, I know that song. Oh, yeah, I know that song.
That's exactly what it's going to be.
You know what happened? I went to see 30 Seconds to Mars, and Walk the Moon opened up.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know I knew any Walk the Moon records.
Oh, yeah.
And one after another, I'm like, oh, my gosh, I love this show.
So you could put Walk the Moon and Vampire Weekend in the same category.
Okay, so I kind of know where they're at. June 23rd, Avril Lavigne's Greatest Hits Tour. Is this thing sold out?
It's almost sold out.
This is going to be an amazing, amazing night.
So we're a team of girlies on the marketing team, all 3 of us, and we are We are so excited about that one.
That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
June 27th, Kids Bop Live. I do know Kids Bop. Working in promotions and radio, you got to know about them. This is going to be a huge show, too.
Well, for the family, right?
Yeah.
That's for the kids. Kids Bop is all of the music that we like that's kind of filtered through a kid.
Cleaned up a little bit.
Cleaned up and bring the kids.
I love the clean
And that's
versions.
why we like, one of the things I love is that we're diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Our tagline is music lives here, but it's basically blank lives here. And you could pop anything in. We are a venue for everybody. We've got something for everybody. Am I as excited about Kids Bop as I am about, let's say, Teddy Swims?
Right.
Personally, maybe.
Maybe not.
Maybe not, but somebody's going to love it.
So you met Angie, my assistant in promotions. Yeah. Her daughter loves Big Time Rush.
Oh,
and they were here, was it last year or maybe
No,
2 years ago now?
Years
yeah.
ago.
And so they'll be back on June 15th. That's going to be a sellout too.
So that's going to be huge, especially, and that one's a little weird. Apparently they're playing all of the songs from the show.
Oh.
So if you know somebody who's a fan of the show,
yeah.
A fan of the show, that's for that. I am a big fan of Big Time Rush for this very reason. They were our first TikTok that actually got some traction.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they pulled somebody up on the audience from the audience. We captured it all. We put it on our TikTok, and all of a sudden it just blew up.
Wow. You never know what's going to go viral.
No, I know. And I was like, and I'm fully admit, like, Big Time Rush is not my personal generation. And so I was like, well, I'm learning new things all the time.
They're the Duran Duran of the time.
Exactly. But here's what's great. So you're looking at a list, and I love that. I would also tell you that in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, like we're in announce season, right?
Right.
And there are some things that I would love to talk to you about right now that I cannot talk to you about.
Don't you hate keeping secrets?
I know, but we're going to have a really exciting season. 2025 is a full season. Oh gosh, I'm like jumping at the seams. I'm like, but we're announcing something on March 10th.
You're just like me as the promotions director here in the building. I know first what's going to get announced,
right?
And I have to just bury it and like not say a word. And then people will be like, "Did you hear?" I'm like, "Yes, I heard 6 weeks ago."
Yeah, we have a giant working board in our office, and we have to have initials because people will come in
and see. Yeah,
and they're like, "Who's BTR?" And like, well,
I have to bury all mine in emails.
Oh, yeah.
And I have a folder that's labeled something that nobody would ever open. So that's how I do that. Finally, on this list, I do have July 29th. Oh, my gosh. Shania Twain. What?
Oh, yeah.
She's basically taking her Vegas residency on tour, which is so smart.
Yes. And if she sells out the first one, there's always a good chance we'd add a second date.
Oh, okay.
So, 90s pop, country.
We were working at WAPE when she was hot.
Yeah.
And we played it there. We played her in Faith Hill.
Yeah.
And, some of these other country artists. And now I've been at country stations since 2007. So, we've seen all these artists kind of come and go and come back around. And she's a legend now. I mean, she's up there with like Dolly Parton, Shania Twain,
Well, what was it? 22? She came out in Harry Styles' set at the Coachella.
Yeah.
And the crowd they lost their brains about it.
I mean, she's a legend.
I absolutely watched all the clips from that particular.
Oh, did you?
Like 18 times.
I'm a huge Harry Styles fan, and I've never seen him live.
No, me neither.
So make sure you book him before Shania Twain leaves. Somehow make that connection.
So what I'm hearing is...
What you're hearing is book Harry, book Teddy, and book, who's the other one? Zach Top back.
That's right. That's right.
So it's going to be a big, big year for Daly's Place. Make sure you go to dailysplace.com for all the shows that are coming.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can reveal right now or absolutely not?
Well, no, but something to keep in mind in this year is, we've got this really exciting Stadium of the Future.
Oh, yeah. I meant to. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, that's really, really exciting. And it's a multi-year project. And so construction has begun. And we have a lot of impacts in the Daly's Place footprint, especially because a lot of that construction staging is in our parking lot.
Right.
So, even right now, there's areas that I can't go into. Like you used to be able to do a full lap around the stadium and there's cordoned off areas. So safety is of the utmost importance, right? But also having a good experience, and it's changing week by week. When I tell you, like we get things in real time, nobody's sitting on information.
Right.
Like, we share it as soon as we get it, but everything, like we had AEW last month. Things look different than it will for Rod Stewart tonight, which will look different for Zach Top. And, so anyway, for tonight, part of Lot J is offline. There's a different entrance. Like instead of going in gate 1, where people are going to go into a newly created gate by box office that has like a pedestrian walkway to get in and out.
So probably not a bad idea to get there early.
That's always a good idea in the sports complex. But I would always say, we're sending out know before you goes. We send out robocalls. We have the information on our website and all of our, how to visit, where to park, all of that. But also just give yourself enough time. I mean, there's also so much staff that's going to direct people and everything.
Right, exactly.
No one's going to be lost.
The main thing I wanted to know was, though, Daly's Place is not going away with this new build of the new stadium.
No, it's not going away at all. In fact, Daly's Place is staying. What happens when the stadium goes completely offline and our footprint growing offline remains to be seen.
Okay.
Right? And again, things are constantly changing.
Yeah.
But right now, when construction is a minimum, we've had to really change the way that people come in and out of the building. So imagine what happens when we're under full construction.
Right.
So all the things we're looking at, we're taking this, I wouldn't even say month by month. We're taking it week by week.
Wow.
But the greater good, the excitement for this. And then when the new stadium's online, you can have me back and we can talk about all the exciting concerts we're bringing into Everbank Stadium.
Sweet.
Which is, one of the other venues that
I was with you on that Rolling Stones show. I'd never seen the Stones, and they were on my bucket list. And I'm like, finally, because I think the last time they were here was the Steel Wheels tour.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't see that show for whatever reason. So I'm excited about more shows coming to Everbank.
Oh yeah, when it is the stadium when it's stadium of the now, it's the stadium of the future. I think people are going to be clamoring to get in there. It's going to be insane.
That's why I love my job. I love knowing what's coming and being a part of. I mean, I worked at a record store all through the 80s.
Right.
And I've been in radio since 1990. And I just want to be completely immersed in music at all times.
Yeah, I haven't gone the music route. I came to the music industry just 10 years ago. I mean, I've always been in events, but music specifically.
Yeah.
And when I got here, a light bulb went off. I was like, why have I not been doing this my entire life?
Right.
And you're going to have to pull me out of this kicking and screaming because I'm not going anywhere.
My family's like, why are you still doing that? I'm like, what else would I do?
Oh, no. Yeah.
You'll never see me on a golf course or with a fishing pole.
Oh, yeah. So, that moment at a live concert when, opening acts have come and gone or whatever, and the lights go down, and there's just that hush for a second.
Yeah.
And then you'll hear that first strum of a guitar or something, and then the whole crowd goes insane.
Yep.
Okay, so that happened to me. My very first event at the arena was Chris Stapleton.
Wow.
And I had come from Thrasher-Horne Center, so tiny venue, 13,000 people. And I had accidentally positioned myself between the speaker and the crowd. So Chris Stapleton strummed that guitar, and I was in front of that speaker, went through my body, my teeth rattled, but then the entire 13,000 people roared back and went through me. And in that one moment, I was like, this is what I meant to do.
Yeah.
This is my purpose. When anyone asks me why I do whatever, that is the moment I think about, because that was the most thrilling moment I've ever had.
I had a similar moment. I believe it was Backstreet Boys at the arena. Actually, I think it was the Coliseum back then. And we went on stage as staff members of WAPE.
Right.
And that roar, you can physically feel the sound.
Yeah.
And I remember my knees were wobbling, but I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yes.
I mean, I was a kid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was a fully grown adult when that happened to me. And I feel like it changed my life, not only moving forward, but maybe a little bit backwards and then again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, oh, this justifies every choice I've ever made.
I totally get that. And this is why I love having you on. And I mentioned to you off the podcast, Numa from the Florida Theater and members of different venues in town, because I love music. Jacksonville is one of the best cities for music. We have so many amazing venues that are fighting for the best artists. Mm-hmm. And as music fans, we get to benefit from it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and obviously I'm biased to Daly's Place.
Of course.
And Everbank Stadium. They're my babies. I love them.
Yeah.
But I think each venue that we have here, from the ittiest to bittiest, like the Ritz, which is 480 seats, right? All the way up to your arena and your stadium of 60,000 people, right?
Absolutely.
Every single venue has its place, has its purpose, has something unique and special about it. I've been to every venue in this city several times over. And even down to Jacob E. Hall and the Symphony, right?
Oh my gosh. And I'm a big Broadway fan, so I love the FSCD Artist Series. I love going to those shows. You're right. Jacksonville just has amazing venues, amazing shows. Absolutely. Jerry Seinfeld comes here. We have the best comedians in the world coming through here.
Definitely. And I just feel lucky and very grateful to be a part of it.
I feel the same way. Lucky and grateful is like exactly, it's like our life. Like we are just blessed.
I do have to convince my kids I'm cool. I'm like, you don't know that I do cool things, but I do.
They will.
And they're like, yeah, whatever.
When they need tickets to Kids Bop, they're going to be like, oh, you rock, Mom.
No, I have teens. They have no interest in kids. But they are definitely of the age. They're like, yeah. But like maybe like 5 years they'll realize it's cool, right?
When they really need those tickets.
That's right.
Stephanie, thank you so much for being here today and being on the
pleasure.
podcast. And I don't know where this podcast is going. We may never get any followers, but it's fun to just talk about Jacksonville venues and artists that are coming to town and with the experts.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the invitation. And if you had just asked me to go grab lunch and talk about this stuff, I would have done that anyway. So like, this is great to have.
Next time I'll cater some lunch in.
Perfect.
That was a lot of fun talking with Stephanie because we have such similar tastes in music and love and passion for live music. All right, my next guest is coming to the Florida Theater on Sunday, March 9th. His name is Luis Elizondo, and if you don't know Lou, he's a former United States Army counterintelligence special agent, former employee of the Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, and #1 New York Times bestseller, and all-around expert on what we call UFOs. Here's my conversation with Luis Elizondo. Lou, I got to tell you, over the last however many years I've been in radio, we've talked to a lot of people, and only 2 have made me nervous. One was Neil deGrasse Tyson, and number 2 is Lou.
Oh, my God. Well, I'm going to disappoint you, sadly, because I think most people, once they actually meet me or talk to me, wind up walking away like, oh, wow, that was that was not anything special.
No, I'm so intrigued by the field that you're in. Since I'm 10 years old and Close Encounters came out, I've been fascinated by what's beyond our world. And I'm so excited you're coming to the Florida Theater on Sunday, March 9th. Can you tell us a little bit about what your stage show is like?
Yeah, well, first of all, a lot of people will say, hey, Lou, you're coming to perform. I'm not a performer. I am coming there to provide the information that we learned while at the Pentagon to the American people about the reality of UAP and its relationship to national security, kind of dispel some of the myths involved in the topic. A lot of times when you mention UFO or UAP, people immediately gravitate towards tinfoil hats and, silly anecdotes like Elvis on the mothership. And that's not really what we're talking about. What we're talking about are capabilities, technologies that our government has been witnessing now for decades, plural, and still remains rather stumped by where these things are from and what they're doing. Look, you have capabilities out there, technological capabilities that can outperform anything still we have in our inventory. And by the way, we've got some pretty cool toys as a nation. And these things are able to, in essence, come over controlled U.S. airspace, interact with our nuclear equities in some cases, and we still have no idea where they're from or what they're doing here and how they operate to some degree. So my discussion is basically providing out the facts and details, how long our government's been involved in this, some of the insights we've gleaned. When I say we, I don't mean me, Luis Elizondo. I mean some of the top scientists in our nation that the U.S. government employed to specifically look at this topic. We talked a little bit about the physics to the best of our understanding of what we've been able to glean by looking at some of the performance characteristics. And then we talked about some of the challenges that we still face as a nation trying to discover more about this incredible enigma. Some of that is the social stigma and taboo. Some of it is deliberate by the U.S. government. And, so far when I have this conversation with folks, I have a lot of slides, a lot of eye candy so people can look themselves and see for themselves. So it's not just me getting up there and droning on, so to speak, about the topic. It's very interactive. We get the audience involved. At the end of the discussion, we open it up for questions. We open it up for suggestions. So everybody is part of this conversation. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do is get more increased public attention and increased public involvement in this topic. Now that Congress is involved, now that the executive branch is involved in this discussion, the time has come that the people's voices are heard. And I think this is a topic that involves every single person equally and yet differently. And it involves people from a philosophical perspective, a theological perspective, a sociological perspective, right? And so therefore, this is a conversation that's much bigger than just national security.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned eye candy, and I think one of the things that really made people perk up for the first time was what's called the gimbal incident. I think it was about 3 years ago where the Navy fighters caught something on video that pretty much went worldwide. Can you talk at all about that?
Yeah, well, that's just one. That's a great example. The gimbal was one of 3 videos that were released eventually officially through the Pentagon of anomalous vehicle-type performance. There's something in the sky, or F-18 Super Hornets during the USS Roosevelt. It had a deployment out towards the Middle East, and in the 2013, 2014, 2015 timeframe, it was regular and routine. In some cases, a lot of people don't know this, in 30 days alone, calendar days, there were 28 separate UAP incidents. And so several of those were captured on camera, gun camera footage, and in some cases, FLIR pod footage. And that is now what the American people get to see. And it was very compelling. But as compelling as that is, some people will come back and say, well, that's kind of a black and white, fuzzy, we don't really know what we're looking at. True, that's one of the reasons why it's so compelling. But what most people don't know is that the U.S. government actually has 4K ultra-high definition videos as well in its inventory. The reason why the American people saw those videos in particular is because they are unclassified. But there are classified systems that have much, much better fidelity, much, much more clearer images of what we're seeing. And frankly, some of those haven't helped resolve the issue. In fact, they've added to the mystery because you're seeing things performing in ways that, frankly, defy our current understanding of physics. Basically, they shouldn't be able to do what they're doing, and yet that's exactly what we're seeing.
I would have to assume, working at the Pentagon, you've seen most of this footage that you're talking about?
Yeah, we saw quite a bit of it. But it's also, I think, important to note that a lot of people continue in the military to report this information. So this is not just a kind of one-and-done deal where there's this, vault or this treasure trove full of high-definition videos. It's happening all the time, every day. There's more and more information being collected. More and more information is being reported. And it's not just, video in the electro-optical spectrum. We have hyperspectral capabilities out there, intelligence capabilities, that are also collecting information. That's very, very telling. The human eye really perceives light, we call it, through the electro-optical spectrum, which is very, very narrow when you compare it to the greater electromagnetic spectrum. 0.00, think about this, 0.0036 of the entire electromagnetic spectrum is visible light. So that means most of the spectrum lies beyond our ability to perceive it. And so you can actually glean a lot of really good information using some of those capabilities that look in different frequencies, such as infrared or microwave or X-ray. And that's why when I live here in Wyoming, when you look at a beautiful night sky, you can see all these beautiful stars. And then if you take, let's say, a radio telescope and point it to the same part of the sky, you see a whole new reality in front of you. You see, for example, nebulas and clouds and stars that the naked eye can't see, simply because they're in a different bandwidth. They're in a different frequency that the human eye can't perceive. And you can actually glean a lot of detail when you look in other spectrums at an object. And UAP are no different.
This is also exciting and fascinating and mind-blowing to me. I told you about, Close Encounters. I'm also a huge Star Wars and Star Trek fan, and I just feel like we're getting so close to this reality that it's a very exciting time.
It is. One has to ask, is this, art imitating life or life imitating art, or is it a combination of both? Look, we know for a fact that you mentioned Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Admittedly, and forgive me, I didn't see it until just very recently. I wasn't really a science fiction kid. I wasn't a Star Wars kid. I was more of a G.I. Joe kid. But we do know that there were government experts that were providing information and advising Steven Spielberg on that movie. None other than J. Allen Hynek himself. In fact, there's a cameo where he's actually in the movie. And he was, in charge of Project Blue Book for the United States, for the Air Force. And so there has been a long history where U.S. government has participated and facilitated Hollywood. So when you look at things like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and you kind of scratch your head and say, wow, how did they get that so accurate? Well, it's because they actually had government officials providing information and advising on the production.
I have been a longtime believer that Gene Roddenberry was a time traveler, because when you watch Star Trek, they have Bluetooth, they have touchscreen, they're using the phasers and all these things that we have
they
today.
Have cell phones, right? And tricorders and all these things that we look at now and they're like, wow, well, that's a Motorola flip phone, isn't it?
And is it life imitating art, or did he go ahead in time and come back and go, let's do these things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I can't tell you if Gene Roddenberry himself, had an ability to predict the future or whatever, or we do know that there was some military background and influence in Gene Roddenberry's life, but did that have any real influence on him with the Star Trek franchise? I don't know. It's a good question, but I will tell you, if you look at a typical Star Trek episode, you see there, more than just from a technological perspective, you see even from a sociological perspective, it was well ahead of his time. You had an international crew serving on the Enterprise that was basically all religious and racial backgrounds and cultural backgrounds. Even at a time when we were in the middle of the Cold War with the Russians, you had a Russian, right, on the bridge, Chekhov, on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. So he really was well ahead of the game, I think.
Most definitely. Lou, I know you're busy. I know you just stepped off a plane and gave us a call, and I really appreciate your time. I want to remind everyone, you're going to be at the Florida Theater on Sunday, March 9th. I'm literally in chill bumps right now, excited for your coming to town. I cannot wait to see your show.
Amadeus, I would love to shake your hand and meet you there in person and have a conversation with you. It is my honor and privilege to have this discussion with the American people. I took an oath a long time ago to serve my country, and I've never been relieved of that oath. And I consider this still part of serving my country. And really looking forward to seeing everybody there. I think we're going to have a great time. So far, people have loved the presentation that I provide. Again, very interactive, so it's not just me droning on and on. That's really what this collaborative conversation is about.
Real quick, before I let you go, I almost forgot to mention your book is out.
Yes, I do have a book that came out. Surprisingly, it was rather successful, and it's very heartfelt. It's very sincere. I provide a lot of personal information that, frankly, look, I wasn't really comfortable providing, but I can't. It's very hypocritical of me to demand transparency from the American government if I'm not willing to be transparent myself, even with my own life. So in that book, there's a lot of me in that book and my experiences as a child and what it was like to grow up. And by the way, it wasn't always very nice. I grew up in a bit of a dysfunctional family at times. And, I lay that to bear for everybody to see for themselves.
Luis Elizondo will be at the Florida Theater on Sunday, March 9th. Don't miss this show. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing. Also coming to the Florida Theater, Tesla will be there on Wednesday, March 5th. Brett Young, Tuesday, March 6th. Comedian Louis Black will be at the Florida Theater on March 7th. And the legendary Gladys Knight on Saturday, March 8th. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back next week with another episode to let you know what's happening live from Jacksonville.